It is the end of another reading year, so I am here today to share with you my 2023 reading journal flip through, 2023 reading journal spreads, and of course my 2023 reading journal wrap up. So hey fam, it's Icy of Icy Studio. Today I will be updating my reading journal. So here is my 2023 cover page, and next is my reading tracker, which I absolutely failed at, but I want to fill in my reading log with the books that I've read this year. So if you haven't watched my 2023 reading journal setup, please feel free to do so if you want. And I have included these beautiful frame illustrations for my reading log, and I will draw or write the books that I've read this year in those frames. And these are the materials that I will be using. So I have accumulated a lot of pens throughout the years that I have been bullet journaling. Not gonna lie, I rarely use my Tombow and Archer and Olive calligraph pens, so I thought that this would be a great opportunity to finally use them. So my reading goal for 2023 was 23 books at least. I try not to put pressure on myself to read, too many books, because I read for enjoyment and I don't want to make it feel like reading is a chore. So anyway, for every book that I read, I try to pick a color based on the cover of the book. And as you can see here, I am using a separate notebook to swatch the colors that I pick, and then I pick the best one and then use it for the book that I'm currently doing. I have actually finished or reached my reading goal for 2023 last July, and it is currently December, but I was just very lazy in updating my reading journal. To be honest, I wanted to actually leave this page unfinished because that's how lazy I felt, but then again I looked back on the hours I spent drawing these frames, which I took reference from Pinterest, but now I'm actually happy that I took the time to fill every frame, and here is my reading log now. So this is an overview of the first 23 books that I have read in 2023. I've actually read I think 34, but I wasn't really bothered to do another reading log page, and I was already in the process of doing all of these spreads about the books that I have read this year. Not gonna lie, I don't really update my reading journal as often as I can, and sometimes I accumulate like maybe 5 or even more books before I actually am bothered to put them into my reading journal. So anyway, as you can see here, I try to make the book spreads within the same theme as the book that I've read. So I pick the colors and the stationery according to the feel of the books. And as you can see, my book spreads are different from each other. Sometimes the titles are on the top, on the bottom, in the middle. Sometimes I add book covers. Sometimes I add illustrations. It really depends on my mood and how I want the page to look. I also don't divide my reading journal into the months of the year because, again, I don't want to put pressure on myself to read X amount of books and then not complete them, because life can get in the way and everything can be busy, and sometimes I can't even find the time to read. So I just do book spreads as I finish the books. I did try a genre related spread though, like for example I did Japanese books and then I did Greek mythology books, but then for some reason I felt kind of sick of reading Greek mythology. Not that there's anything wrong with Greek mythology, I just felt like I needed something different. So I'm probably not gonna do that, and I'm just gonna give myself the freedom to choose whatever book I feel like it, because I am a mood reader. Because I wasn't in a good mood, I actually DNF'd 2 beautiful Greek mythology books, and yeah, it wasn't a good feeling. So yeah, I'm here today to show you how I do my book spreads, and I will be doing the last 6 books that I've read, and after that I will be doing my 2023 reading journal stats. So anyway, in my bullet journal, I kind of confine myself into using minimal stuff, and lately I have been obsessed with metallic watercolor and metallic ink, so sometimes I don't get to use the other art tools that I have, like for example these beautiful gel pens that I bought from Life of Color. I am actually a Life of Color affiliate, and sometimes I create content for them, and if you would like 10% off your order, please feel free to use my discount code ICStudio through the link below. And since we're on the topic of affiliates, I'm also an Archer and Olive affiliate and alumni. I was in the design team from 2021 to 2022, and feel free to use my discount code ICStudio10 for 10% off eligible items. So all of those links are in the description below. And also with my bullet journal, I tend to stick to one theme per month. So with my reading journal, I try to not do that. So I try to stick to one theme per book, and that kind of gives me the freedom to use all of the stationery and stickers that I have accumulated throughout the years, like these beautiful sticker books that I got from Washi Gang. I love everything vintage, spooky, and mystical and celestial. So everything that I like is actually in these sticker notebooks, and I highly recommend getting them. So anyway, I think I should talk a little bit about the books that I've read this year. So this one is called Cursed by Marissa Mayer. She's one of my favorite authors. I absolutely love the Lunar Chronicles and Heartless, and I love the first book of this series. So the series is called Gilded. So this is book number 2. The first book was really good. So this is actually a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. I love the first book, but the second book was a bit slow, but I still appreciated the gothic and scary elements. So the next 2 books that I will be doing are both by Victoria Schwab, or V.E. Schwab. So the first one is called Tunnel of Bones, which is a junior fiction about a young ghost hunter. Actually not a ghost hunter, but her parents are ghost documentarists. So they do a ghost documentary show and visit haunted places around the world. So this one is set in Paris, France. It is also the second book to the Cassidy Blake series. So the first book was called City of Ghosts, and I read it maybe 5 years ago, and I was actually really spooked out, despite the fact that Cassidy Blake, the main character in this book, is only 12 years old and she's so brave, whereas me, someone who's like almost more than twice her age, is a scaredy cat. But anyway, I think I like the first book better. I wasn't as spooked out as I was in the first one, but again, I think it was just my mood. But I still might read the next books in the series. So up next is another spooky book, but it isn't junior fiction, it's young adult horror, I guess, and it is called Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I borrow books from the library because I'm not a big rereader. So I marked my favorite quotes with sticky notes. So Gallant is a horror young adult fiction book that I actually liked because I appreciated the gothic elements and the horror elements. I feel like the writing style enhances the world building because it feels like I get transported into this mysterious world of shadows. I think Victoria's writing style is really beautiful and eloquent, that I find so many good quotes in the book, and that is why I need to record them in my reading journal. So after that, I read a graphic novel called Over My Dead Body by Sweeney Boo, and because your girl is in her witchy era, I had to read this. Look at all of the beautiful illustrations. I actually wanted to draw them in my reading journal, but I felt like I didn't have the energy or time. So what I did was I took photos of them and printed them out using my printer. So as much as I love the illustrations and the graphics, I found the storyline to be a little bit shallow and I wasn't really convinced. So it's about this young girl who goes to a witch's academy, and then all of a sudden one of her closest friends go missing. She tries to solve the mystery herself, but a lot of other mysteries unfold. Even when I didn't find the storyline to be great, this was a good palate cleanser in between books. So anyway, I don't really have much to say about this book, so I decided to do the collage first, and I'm going to rummage through my stationery. It's funny how I accumulate so much, and then once I dig through my stationery stack, I go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I still have this. But then sometimes I feel like some of my stationery are too pretty to use, but then again, I think about, when am I gonna use them? Might as well use them now. For my next book spread, I want to incorporate some gold. So I will be using the gold chrome pen from Life of Color. So this next book is a non-fiction book about tarot, which is called Young Oracle Tarot. Because I have been interested in all things witchy and celestial, and I have been listening to podcasts about astrology and tarot, I have been interested in the stories behind the tarot cards, so I decided to borrow this tarot book, and I love the illustrations in this book, and it simply explains the elements in the cards. And also I love how this sticker book has the major arcana, which I can use for this book spread, and I absolutely love how this book spread turned out, and it might be a theme for one of my bullet journal spreads in the coming months. What do you think? I actually also bought myself a deck of tarot cards. What about you? Do you have a deck of tarot cards, and do you believe in these things? I actually don't, but I am very intrigued. So the last book I read this year was Lake's Edge by Lyndall Clipstone. So this is another horror, gothic, young adult fiction that I've actually borrowed twice from the library, so I didn't get to read it the first time. But I was kind of disappointed this time because I didn't really like it for some reason. I guess it was just my mood. So my favorite young adult trope is enemies to lovers. This had an enemies to lovers trope, but I really wasn't feeling it. Although I did appreciate the gothic and the horror and the magical vibes. But other than that, kind of fell flat for me. So anyway, I wasn't really happy with the quote that I wrote on the top part of the page. So I fixed it up by cutting a bit of the last page of my journal and sticking it on top of the quote. And I decided to write it in calligraphy so it looks a little bit more nice. So I guess this is something you could do with your journal. If you make a mistake or if you do something that you don't really like, you can cut a bit of the last page of your journal or any other piece of paper and stick it on top of the thing that you want erased or modified. So here I'm just repeating the process that I've done for the rest of the book spreads that I've showed you earlier. So I like using vintage stationery sheets and ripping them because I like the torn paper effect, and I would stick them on either the left or the right side of the pages or the top or the bottom, and then I would layer some stickers that go with the theme of the book. So after all the book backlog, I am happy that I've done all of the book spreads for 2023, and now I'm ready to do my 2023 reading journal wrap-up. I actually use Goodreads for all of my book tracking things, so my 2023 wrap-up is actually based on that. I don't include statistics or bar graphs or pie charts in my wrap-up because my brain doesn't like math, so I'm basically just copying my Goodreads 2023 year-in books. Do you guys have a Goodreads account? If yes, I will paste Goodreads profile link below and let's be friends. It's always interesting to see what people are reading and, if they have any challenges, so let's be friends on Goodreads. So because I'm not adding much statistics on my 2023 reading journal wrap-up, I drafted everything in pencil, and as you can see, there's nothing much there. And because I want to look back and remember my top 3 books of 2023, I've printed the covers out using my HP Sprocket. And because I want to save some space and some film, I've used the collage option on the Sprocket app to print multiple photos in one film. So my top 2 books were actually vampire novels, and the third one is a Greek mythology retelling of Clytemnestra's story. So anyway, other things that I've included in my wrap-up is the number of pages that I've read. So I've actually DNF'd 2 books, so I didn't really exactly read 12,496 pages. And other things I also included were average book length that I've read, and average rating that I gave my books, and also the most popular book on Goodreads and the least popular book on Goodreads. I've also included a genre tally because I feel like it's very interesting to see what genres I've read the most this year. So this is actually the second year that I've kept a reading journal. I didn't used to before this, but because I want to keep a record of the books and look back on, my favorite quotes and the books that I actually liked in the past, it's just really good to look back on those memories. So here I am adding the finishing touches on my last spread for my 2023 reading journal. So tell me about your 2023 reading journal goals, or have you read any of the books that I've read this year as well? Anyway, if you've made it this far, please give this video a like, and don't forget to watch my 2024 reading journal setup if you haven't yet. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. Please subscribe, and see you guys in the next video.